Audio Jungle.
Hi, this is Gerald Celente. It's Wednesday, January 16th, 2019. And here are some of today's trends in the news. On the market fronts, over there in Asia, Nikkei's down a little bit. Over there in Europe, FTSE's down a bit. Here in the States, everybody's up. Oil's up, gold's up, Bitcoin's up. It's a pretty up day. Dow gains more than 100 points as investors cheered strong quarterly earnings from major banks like Goldman Sachs and Bank of America. Doesn't that make you feel great that the big banksters got bigger and they're making more money? And that market is going up, and you know why. Because interest rates are heading down. That's right. Backtrack Powell over there. The Fed chair back in September said, we're going to raise them once more in 2018. And they indicated maybe 3 or 4 times in 2019. But on January 4th, of course, he backtracked with that and said that, we're going to be patient because we're concerned about the volatility in the equity markets. The equity markets, that's right. In America, the 1% own 50% of the household equities in the markets. That's right. The rest, just plantation workers on the multinational plantations of Slavelandia, brought to you by the banksters. Oil rises, and they're saying that although there are mounting signs of an economic slowdown, and although the United States is now producing a record high 11.9 million barrels per day last week, they say that demand is going to start picking up and oil prices will move higher. We'll see where that goes. On the gold front, gold moved up a little bit. Gold gains on Fed views. Yep. The macro environment still looks very positive for gold, given we expect the dollar to weaken as the Fed unlikely to start hiking rates until the second half of the year, said a precious metal analysts at Standard Chartered Bank. Raise interest rates the second half of the year? How about lowering them? Gold, big story right here. Financial Times. Volatile equities heighten gold's allure for wary investors. Central bank buying? Oh, yeah. And worries about U.S. debt levels underpin rise in metals price. That's only that much of the story, because today we issued a trend alert. Gold to glow. How high will it go? Last October, with gold at $185 an ounce, we sent subscribers a trend alert. Gold down but not out. We noted that while gold sunk some $15 below our bottom range of $1,200 per ounce, it had bottomed out and would move higher. It did, and it has. And now we're saying where it's going, why it's going there, and what's going to push it forward in your trend alert. History before it happens, way above these cats and way beyond them. China just injected a record amount of money to stimulate the economy. On Wednesday, today, the Chinese central bank injected $83 billion into the banking system, the highest ever recorded for a single day, and it goes on. They're injecting more monetary methadone into the raging bull. They got to keep it going because that 1% that owns 50% of all the household equities, they can't get enough. They can't get enough, and you got to give them more. So, that's today, and you as Trends Journal subscribers know what I read to you 3 weeks ago. and said that that would happen when the Chinese bank came out and said, China won't resort to monetary stimulus next year, says central bank advisor. 3 weeks ago, December 24th. And I said, you know what this is?
Bullshit detected. Take precautions.
That's what it was, and that's what it is. BS. Because World Bank warns of storm clouds over global economy. In its Global Economic Prospect Report, entitled Darkening Skies, the World Bank stated that, quote, storm clouds are brewing for the global economy. And it goes on. And that's what we were saying. Yes, we had forecast an economic 9/11, and it was based on rising interest rates. Because that's all that drove the equity markets and economies was negative zero interest rate policies, $26 trillion worth of central bank quantitative easing, and a $250 trillion debt bubble. And now they're having trouble injecting more into it, but they're going to do it. So, that bull, not ready to OD yet, but getting close. We'll let you know when it happens, but as long as they keep putting in more of that heroin into them, monetary heroin, it's going to keep running. And you can see the effect. You know how I've been reporting how housing prices have been falling, how new home sales and existing home sales have been declining, and new mortgage applications and existing applications have been going down, not only in the United States, from Australia, around much of the world. Well, guess what? Now that Fed chair came out and said we're going to be more patient with rising interest rates, mortgage applications surged 13.5% as borrowers rush to take advantage of lower rates. That is the highest level since February and came after a 23% jump the previous week. Refinancing demand drove the gains, with those applications rising 19% for the week to the highest level since March. Okay? Lower rates is the only thing that's going to keep these markets moving. Speaking of housing, student loan debt is keeping young people from buying homes. From 2005 to 2014, the percentage in that group owning homes dropped from 45% to 36%. And that's no surprise because of the massive education debt that they have, on average of $30,000 a year, and lousy jobs that you get when you work in Slavelandia. Because hedge fund billionaire Ray Dalio, capitalism basically is not working for the majority of people. That is just the reality, he said. Today, the top 0.1% of the population's net worth is equal to the bottom 90% combined. In other words, a big, giant wealth gap. Further, Dalio points to a survey of the Federal Reserve showing that 40% of adults can't come up with $400 in case of emergency. And 78% of the people that he didn't mention are living paycheck to paycheck. Capitalism is working. We don't have capitalism. I just read to you what the banksters are getting. How about too big to fail, Dalio? You're a real smart guy, man. You're a multi-billionaire. There's no such thing as too big to fail in capitalism. There's no such thing as giving tax breaks and grants and pilot programs to all these big rich companies like Amazon that they just gave $3 billion, costing we the people $48,000 per job in New York to create. That's not capitalism, Dalio. That's fascism. The merger of state and corporate powers. That's all it is. Fascism. Democrats and Republicans, fascist parties, you're living in a dictatorship. Oh, I got to be careful about saying dictatorship because I just saw that big Gillette ad that came out. Oh, yeah, and about toxic masculinity. So you got to be careful. I can't say dictatorship anymore. Just like I can't say that those guys and women that are piloting airplanes, that they're sitting in cockpits. Can't say that anymore either. We all got to be proper. No, capitalism is working. We don't have it, and neither do most countries, now that we're all gobbled up by globalization, multinationals, and all of the antitrust laws vanished. Oh, and the banksters forgot about the Glass-Steagall law, that act that Bill Clinton killed. And moving on. Falling wages, rising housing costs fuel homeless among aging Americans. Hey, read your Trends Journal. What's in it? Bye-bye boomers. We mentioned that and other sad facts that are hitting my generation, the baby boom generation. America at War, infographic reveals how the U.S. military is operating in 40% of the world's nations. No surprise. We got wars to fight and peoples to kill. That's right. That's why Occupy Peace is the action plan to close those bases overseas, 800 bases, bring the troops home, and rebuild our rotted infrastructure, force Congress to vote to go to war, and have we the people vote to tell them what to do. Because today, of course, the news is that 4 Americans killed in attack that ISIS claims responsibility. They got that ISIS back in there, right? Yep. 2 U.S. service members, a defense contractor, and a Department of Defense civilian were killed in Syria on Wednesday, according to the U.S. military. A mercenary, a contractor, the military-industrial complex. We are there illegally. The ISIS story is nothing more than a load.
Oh, come on now. That ain't even bullshit. That's horse shit.
Total horse shit. The United States is there. You could Google it up. Obama, Hillary Clinton, John Kerry. Assad has to go. That's why we're in there, to get rid of Assad, regime change. But anyway, that's going to slow down Trump's withdrawal of the troops out of Syria? We'll see. Was this a coincidence? And the other war that's heating up over there, I've been warning about, one of your top trends in 2018. Talked about again as we continue to write about it. About Iran. Iran oil exports dive as U.S. economic measures take hold. Iran's oil exports bear the scars of U.S. sanctions, with December's output falling almost 60% down from last spring. And what do we have? Our Secretary of State, Pompeo. We will not cease our campaign to stop Iran's malevolent influence and actions against this region and the world. He vowed that the U.S. economic sanctions on Iran, quote, will keep getting tougher until Iran starts behaving like a normal country. Yeah, like a normal country that invaded Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, that kind of normal country. The normal country that has bases in 40% of the world, that normal country. Oh no, the normal country he was speaking this from, Saudi Arabia. Now that's really normal for an abnormal guy. Again, Occupy Peace, because remember, White House sought options to strike Iran's state. President Trump's National Security Council asked the Pentagon to provide the White House with military options to strike Iran last year. just as we had forecast in our top trends for 2018. Market shock, mass murder. We talked about the United States, Saudi Arabia, and Israel aligning to go after Iran, and it's heating up. And speaking about bringing freedom and democracy around the world, try this one. Congo election tainted by fraud, as leaked data shows. Fayulu, 1 vote. Well, I say we should attack and bring democracy to Congo. Yeah, because after all, look how rich they are in oil deposits, in diamonds, and cobalt, and uranium, copper, and gold. They could use some democracy. Yeah. United States spreading democracy around the world, huh? Again, whether it's the Middle East or the triangle of death that's forming to take out Venezuela with the United States, Brazil, and Argentina, and hearing our State Department saying that Maduro has no right, the guy that was just reelected president, to be president, you can see where this is going. Because if we go to war against Iran, it's the beginning of World War III. And again, you won't have to worry about climate change or anything else, because the whole world will change. Woof. Radiated to death. Nuclear war, weapons of mass destruction, massive drone strikes, biological warfare. It will be death on earth for billions, unless we occupy peace. This is Gerald Celente, and that's some of today's trends in the news.